going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nicotina Show. We are live. I'm joined by Sean, Mr. Nerd Cosa Nostra, and we're going to be talking about X-Men 97, Episode 3. Now, this episode was really, really cool because we got to see the pretty much the development of Madeline Pryor as a character, but it was also exposed that she was a clone created by Mr. Sinister, which was obviously that was pulled from the comics, which I love so much. And so we got a whole evolution of her character going from who she thought was Jean Grey, turning into the Goblin Queen, and then becoming Madeline Pryor by the end of the episode. Sean, what did you think about the character of, I guess, Madeline Pryor throughout this entire episode?
I was surprised. So I was surprised that we speculated who the character was going to be after episode 2 when this Jean lookalike showed up at the door, passed out, episode ended. Big cliffhanger. Yeah. We were hoping that episode 3 would pick up, right where it left off in episode 2. We didn't want to see a time jump. We wanted to see the story just immediately start continuing, and it did. And I think within the first 5 minutes, we found out immediately who the real Jean was and who the clone was. And we found out the one that thus far we had seen in episodes 1 and 2 was in fact the clone. Mm-hmm. And then I think we were all surprised to then see in episode 3 of 10, we were already given the Goblin Queen. And we were giving it with like a huge impact. It wasn't just we saw little tidbits of the character. It's like as if we saw the character full force, all of her powers and what she can, do and put the X-Men group through. She showcased that and even put Magneto on his heels a bit. But obviously,
yeah, he got fucked up.
Yeah, he did, right? And she said a line while she was attacking him, and he was on the ground, kind of like licking his wounds a bit. You're just a villain, portraying or playing the hero. Almost as if she's trying to say, I know you're still a villain, so I don't know who you think you're fooling, but you're not fooling me. So I thought that line it didn't stand out to me on the first viewing, but I did go back and watch it a second time just, to catch those small things. And that did stand out to me and thought, is this going to foreshadow something in a future episode where we actually then see Magneto go full villain again, right? But to your point, then we saw where she kind of broke away from the controls of Sinister and then took on the name of Madeline Pryor. And she walked away. With the last 5-10 minutes of the episode, we saw her leave the mansion. I'm going to go on my own path. So now it's a matter of, will we see this character again? We are going into episode 4. We have 10 total episodes for the season. So I'm hoping we see the character again and see how that story plays out. I hope this isn't just a one episode you found out and now we're done with the character. So
yeah, we're just gonna move on real quick.
Yeah,
I think definitely the character will come back. I think that Mr. Sinister will come back as well, and I think they both will have an integral part to play before this story is completely over. We got a comment here from Ruthie. Ruth, what's going on, Ruth? Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it, and it's nice to see you too. She's over in the UK, so it's good to see her. And guys, I did pin the link to the Twitch stream. So guys, if you want to stay with us and watch episode 4 on Twitch with Sean and I, then definitely click on this link, follow me on Twitch, and let's watch it together. We're going to be doing this every single week. And so the way this is going to work, we're going to do our pre-show here on YouTube, and then we're going to continue the stream on Twitch, we're live on Twitch right now. Watch the episode and then go live again on YouTube to discuss kind of what took place in the episode. But yeah, no, I'm also interested to see, yes, kind of what you were saying, that I want to see what happens to Magneto. I think he may have, made himself a little too vulnerable.
Yep.
If he had his helmet on, I don't think that the Goblin Queen would have been able to do or inflict as much damage as she did, because she was also causing him to hallucinate as well. So,
yep.
But then again, I mean, they were in the cathedral where Sinister was located, so a lot of that was like, reality. But still, I think that if he had his helmet on, that would have helped. So he may go back to that. He may want to go back to his helmet, kind of start going back to his old ways, because he's like, man, I can't be that weak anymore. But who knows? We'll see where it takes us.
And we discussed that in episode 2, right? I mean, that we discussed especially when he was he willingly allowed himself to get arrested or taken into custody, whatever, however you want to phrase that, to be put on
Yeah.
trial. And we even talked about it then. Should he, towards the end of the episode, should he have had his helmet on? Should he have gone full blown villain? But he was trying to. I think he had a deeper plan in place, which he ultimately got what he wanted. He got the pardon, right?
Yeah,
He got them
exactly.
off his back. But yeah, I think I'm hoping, part of me hopes by the time we get to episode 10, the end of the season, we do see some of that villain Magneto. We do see some of that. Hey, I'm getting my helmet back on. I'm not going to get pushed around anymore like I have thus far. But not just Magneto, pretty much got his ass kicked. Scott took another punch to the gut in this
He
episode. I
did.
mean,
He
this
really
guy's
did.
he's getting beaten up, and I say, and that's not not necessarily physically, but even like mentally beat up in every episode we've seen thus far. Especially when we moved a little bit further into the episode where the clone Jean, who turns into again Goblin Queen Madeline Pryor, decides, hey, the only way to save my baby is to allow Bishop to take it into the future in order to try to save him, heal him from the techno organic virus that the child now, Nathan, that's the name of the child, now has. And Scott's like, no, I don't agree with this, and kind of walks away from that situation or scenario. And then I mean, again, this guy just keeps getting beat up every episode. I mean, he's going to have, at some point, he's going to need to have a redemption storyline or story before this ends, because we can't see 6 more episodes of Cyclops getting beaten down every time he tries to do something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, every episode it's been a blow to his overall mental health, really, his to his confidence as well. The first episode showed the real Jean Grey collapsing at the front door after he had his baby. He was like, "What?" Actually, that was the end of the second episode. But
Second episode, yeah.
But even in the first episode,
when Magneto shows up,
yeah, Magneto shows up, and then this is right after he basically Cyclops, had come to grips with, yes, I am the leader. He had that line, come to me, my X-Men, so he was in full leadership mode. Then he had to give that up because Magneto had it because of a piece of paper, I guess, or legally, whatever.
Yeah, it was the final will and testament that he said he had.
And I know, I know Ryan, when we were talking about this on the Four Nerds, was talking about how, that's unrealistic. But I mean, I get why they were doing it. And obviously, look, he's honoring what Professor X, his plans that he laid in place. And so he said, okay, I'll abide by this because this was his idea.
Yeah, I think when we had the Four Nerds last week, I think there were kind of two. I'll phrase it this way: we had kind of like two camps. We had one camp where, hey, Magneto, last will and testament. This I'm doing what my friend wanted me to do. I'm taking over, and the X-Men, being the X-Men, saying, well, we don't want to go against what Xavier wished for, so we're just going to fall in line with what we're being told. Then you have the other camp saying, well, hey, Magneto shows up. He hasn't proven himself to be a quote unquote good guy. He hasn't proven himself to do the right thing. So why would the X-Men so willingly just fall in line, even though that's what Xavier is saying he wanted? They should have just been like, deuces, we're out of here.
Yeah.
You can have the mansion, you can have whatever you want, but we're not going to follow you. So I think that was kind of the two perspectives, and I can see, I think you would agree, we can see both perspectives. But obviously the path they're going with this so far this season, and with these first 3 episodes we've seen, is they're falling in line to what Professor X wanted. This is what he had in plan or in store. So we're not going to push against that. So.
Yeah, no, and you even had Storm, who was aligning herself with Magneto in trying to protect the court hearing and the panel that was there. So they're definitely honoring what Professor X had laid in place, and because they respect him so much. But in this third episode, not only did he lose his son by sending him to the future with Bishop, but again, now the other Jean Grey, Madeline Pryor, she's gone, and now he's left in this broken bedroom with Jean Grey, who now he's like, do I know, like, how long has it been since I've actually seen you or talked to you? and I've been dealing with the clone, and
Yep. Yeah, because the real Gene and the clone had a moment where they were questioning each other because as they were trying to see, okay, do you remember this or do you remember doing these things?
yeah,
And there was a talk over where they were like, well, when were we switched or when did you become me? So yeah, at this point thus far we don't know when the switch happened, based upon, again, if we just stick to the 3 episodes of this show, we don't know when the switch happened. And yeah, Scott's now with a Gene. He's not sure if he knows her, not sure
mm-hmm.
if he can trust her, because he just had a child with the clone one, so he lost the one he had built a relationship with, was going to leave the mansion. They were going to leave in episode 1. That was the whole plan. That was their original plan until Magneto showed up.
Exactly.
And he's lost his child. So I mean, the guy's lost the X-Men. He's lost his apparent what he thought to be his wife, his significant other, and he's lost his child. So 3 episodes, 3 straight hits to the gut.
Well, and plus, like, I mean, look, she's still Jean Grey. I mean, she's still the person that he loves, but how long has she been gone for? How long has she been, a prisoner of Mr. Sinister? And how long had the clone been there?
Well, while she is Jean Grey, the experiences that he's had for X amount of time haven't been with that Jean. I mean,
exactly.
Even though they're clones, we can clearly see the personality differences they've developed, especially since she's been the clone has been spending all this time with Scott while getting pregnant, having the child initially. Obviously, the child.
Yeah.
Well, we see the child still to be a newborn. He's had those experiences with that Gene, and the other Gene never had those. So while it is the real Gene, it's not his quote. I guess not his, like he owns her, but it's not his Gene that he's accustomed to having that experience with. So I think that's where, when we see at the end, they're kind of on opposite ends of the room, just staring at each other like, okay, now where do we go from here?
Yeah, like, hey, what's up? Like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it's definitely it's a trip in itself. Guys, we're about less than 20 minutes away from watching X-Men 97 episode 4. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button as well. If you're watching on X, follow me on X, because we're going to be doing this every single week for the next if you count today, 7 weeks, but it'd be 6 more episodes left until we get to episode 10, the finale. And so far, every episode has been just straight dynamite, dude. I absolutely love this series so much. So, guys, definitely follow me on X or subscribe to the channel and smash the like button as well. If you want to support the channel, you can by becoming a member. The link is right down below, or you can join us over on Patreon. Both are great ways to support the channel, and I appreciate everyone who's a member and who's over on Patreon as well. So, moving forward now, we talked about Magneto. We talked about, Cyclops and what he's going to be going through. He basically just had a kid, and then he lost the kid immediately. But now we also turn a page and we look at where there's 2 more storylines kind of going on. I mean, we saw the storyline with Rogue and Magneto and how they had all this time scheduled in the Danger Room together. Gambit's kind of weary about that, but now that Magneto has gotten his ass kicked, maybe he's not so lovey-dovey anymore. Maybe he's more pissed and he feels vulnerable. The other story, too, is going to be Storm teaming up with Forge out in wherever they're at. I think it's New Mexico, or I forgot where it was at exactly.
Well, he's from Texas. So he's from Texas.
So he's from Texas. Texas. That's where they're at. So that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds as well.
Yeah. So I think to touch on the first one, the with Magneto and Rogue. It'd be interesting. I don't necessarily think the ass kicking he took will change her view of him. I think that her view of him will change again if we see him go full villain or partial villain. I think if he starts to revert back to his old ways, I think that's where we could see a crack in that foundation.
And you're talking about Magneto.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Magneto. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. We would see the crack in that relationship that they've touched on in 2 episodes, 2 and 3 briefly. Yeah. Now, as far as Forge and Storm, That'll be. I'm wondering, and I think we talked about this last time, if this episode will focus on that story because that's where we left off. We left off with them in the
I think
bar.
it will. I think it will start out there. I think Forge will,
But will it be the
create.
whole episode? Will this whole episode be devoted to that story? Because
No.
in the comics, they actually have it's actually there's a storyline where they actually have a romance, and he's the one that actually developed the weapon that was used for her to lose her powers. He created that weapon in the comics, which then eventually they break up. He goes crazy and so on and so forth. But I'm wondering how much of this episode will be devoted to them and his ability to potentially create a technology, a tool in this time, not Bishop's time, where there's supposedly a fix, but in this time, to give her powers back. So we'll
Yeah.
see if that plays out in this episode or if they kind of stretch that out through multiple episodes, and then she comes back with like the last 3 episodes. Because I think the last 3 episodes is it's one long story, meaning they're not treating it as 3 different episodes. It's all called Tolerance and Extinction. I think it's what it's
See,
called.
still, I still feel like this is going to lead to something else. Like I don't think you can do a whole season of X-Men 97, do 2 seasons, because I know this got approved for a season 2
Yeah, it did,
of
yeah.
X-Men 97, and then just be like, yeah, that's it. It's done. We're over. I still believe that this X-Men 97 will be the origin story of the X-Men you saw at the end of the Marvels. I think it just makes more sense if that's what you're getting. And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me that the Wolverine we get in Deadpool and Wolverine is the Wolverine from this show, or one just like it, because I mean, yes, it's going to be Hugh Jackman, but he's wearing the yellow suit, which is going to be awesome. So I mean, really, Deadpool Wolverine is going to be a very pivotal point when it comes to the timeline of the MCU, and to me, it's like to introduce all these characters or reintroduce these characters and to learn about them and to follow them for 2 seasons. I feel like it'd just be cool to see them get shifted over to live action, and then after Secret Wars, you then reboot the MCU with the new X-Men. But who knows?
Well, yeah, we'll look at the timing, right? So I think we believe Secret Wars will happen around maybe late 2026, sometime 2027, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, this season will end in late May of this year, this first season of X-Men 97. So we may not even get season 2 until the same time next year. That's typically how it would run for any normal TV show. It's usually a pretty big gap, especially if they haven't even developed the story, the art, all that stuff. Which, to your point, puts us, towards the end of 2025, which then could set it up for a 2026, where they bring Deadpool and Wolverine, the live action ones, into a story where they start touching on these X-Men characters, and then start introducing the live action ones where they touch back on these stories that we've seen in the first 2 seasons. So I think it's probably very likely that could happen. Because otherwise, what else right now, what would be their best next option, right? I mean, they've tried doing X-Men a number of times. And while I think some would say it was a success, some will say it wasn't. And maybe for the time it was, when we got the first X-Men, 1, 2, and 3, the first original trilogy. For the time, they were great. But a lot has changed since then when it comes to comic book movies, setting up long-term stories. So this very well could be kind of like that prequel setup to give us live action X-Men finally that look like this.
And that's my point, is that if you have the live action X-Men be this version of the characters, then you won't have to spend time trying to reintroduce them in live action, because you're like, oh yeah, I've already seen where these guys come from. And so then, I just think it's an easier way to do that. And then then when you reboot after Secret Wars and you follow the X-Men more closely, then you can kind of, recast and redo everything, because now you're kind of softly rebooting the entire MCU. Now, when we look at some of the projects that are coming out this year, obviously we have X-Men 97, the next one being Deadpool and Wolverine, which I really cannot wait to see. Let me move this over here so I can read it. And then after that, we're looking at, what's this? Craven the Hunter, which I don't care. That's not
I'm
really. That's
not.
not. I don't
I,
care.
yeah, I'm not too. I'm not too keen on. I'm not. That doesn't. That one really doesn't have my interest.
Yeah, well, and then another one too is like after that we have Agatha the Darkhold Diaries, which is kind of strange because this feels like this should have came out a few years ago, especially right after WandaVision. There's another one. What is this? Now some of
Um,
these projects have been actually canceled too because they don't want to do
yeah.
too many. Like Eyes of Wakanda, I don't know if we're actually still going to get that one. The animated Spider-Man freshman year is kind of interesting. Now it's been changed to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And that's going to
Mhm.
be an animated series coming out in, I think, next year. You have Captain America Brave New World, which you're currently doing reshoots for to try and
Yep.
retool that movie and change things up on that one. The Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. I don't even know if Blade's ever going to come out.
Blade's never. I mean,
I don't think it's. I
I
mean,
have little hope that Blade will come out because the biggest thing with Blade is you gotta figure out how are you going to up the character
yeah.
from Wesley Snipes's. I mean, I know many people don't like the third Blade movie that's from that trilogy. Many people enjoyed 1 and 2, but 3 I know wasn't. I There was a lot of behind the scenes drama with Wesley Snipes in making that movie. But you got to, how are they going to up this? And then how are you going to introduce this type of character into
Yeah.
your MCU universe where you don't necessarily have a character this violent outside of Logan, the film Logan, but even that film really doesn't play much into
Mhm.
the MCU universe, that version of Logan.
Well, but where it gets interesting too is that when we get closer to Avengers 5, which I mean, I should say all. There's a lot of reports saying that they're going to add a second villain, but there's a lot of reports saying that Kang will still be the villain going into Avengers 5. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But what I do like is that Daredevil Born Again is going to be coming out in 2025, and that's supposed to lead directly into Spider-Man 4. And I really do believe that Spider-Man 4 will come out before Avengers 5 because I think that you need to reestablish Tom Holland's Spider-Man going into an Avengers movie. And then, after Avengers 5, I think the only project I've heard about that they're even developing after that would be like Thor. Was it Thor 5? I think it is. Yeah, Thor
It'll be
5.
5, yeah.
Yeah, and which was probably going to get revamped because I don't think they're going to go the same route they went with Thor: Love and Thunder. I would imagine you're going to get the Thor movie, and you're going to get probably one more, and then you're going to get Secret Wars Part 1 and then Secret Wars Part 2, and then we kind of go from there. But it's interesting to see what they'll do. But I'm hoping that Born Again, with all the reshoots and all the additions from the Netflix series, turns out to be a much better series than what we were gonna get. Because what we were gonna get didn't sound very cool, guys. We have 39 people watching right now. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on X, make sure you follow me on X because we're gonna be live every single week watching X-Men 97. And in less than 10 minutes, we're gonna be watching X-Men 97 episode 4. This stream will continue on Twitch once the episode goes live. We are live right now on Twitch as well, so if you want to jump over and join us, you can. I have pinned the link to the chat if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on X, you can literally watch the entire stream on X and not miss a beat because it'll just keep going. So that part of it's pretty cool.
Yeah, to touch on the Thor thing, yeah, it will be the next one will be the 5th one, but I definitely don't think we're gonna see another one like Love and Thunder.
No.
Even Chris came out and flat out said, if I do another standalone Thor film, it's gonna have to be something drastically different than the last, and
Absolutely.
something different than what we've already done. The character needs to have evolved by now,
Yeah.
and where it's evolved, it kind of went from a serious tone to a goofy, playful, jokingly tone, which, I mean, the MCU is known for that. A lot of the MCU films are known for that. They have their jokes and humor here and there, but Love and Thunder, I just think was a swing and a big miss for the general audience and your hardcore Marvel comic book
Yeah, I
fans. It
was
just
not
didn't
a fan of
resonate.
that movie at all. I saw it with
Yeah.
my nephew, and I thought maybe he was gonna like it because he's younger than I am. He's like, oh God, how old is he? Like 16, 17, and even he thought it was stupid. He was like, that was a dumb movie. I was like, it really was a dumb movie. There really wasn't much that I liked at all. I mean, obviously I like Guns N' Roses, but like the way it was used in that film, it just
I mean,
none of it was good.
yeah, it has zero rewatch value to it. I mean, there's a lot of MCU movies you can go back and rewatch and still enjoy them. One of them, I know it's a fan favorite for many, is Winter Soldier. I mean, I know a lot of people can go back and rewatch that on multiple
Oh
occasions and
yeah,
still enjoy
it's
it.
a
But
great one.
Love and Thunder is like it's a one viewing, and you really don't even want to talk about it after the fact because it just
No,
didn't resonate.
and that goes for really almost everything that the MCU has put out since Endgame. I mean, like I
Yeah.
like Shang-Chi, but like I really haven't gone back to watch it again because I just it doesn't have that much rewatchability, but I still like the movie. I thought it was actually pretty good.
Hmm.
And there have been some MCU projects that I did like Loki season 1, season 2. I thought were outstanding. I really liked Moon Knight. I thought that was a really cool series. But like, where has he been? Where has Shang-Chi
Well,
been? We
yeah,
don't see
exactly.
anybody. It's like you haven't followed through with anything.
Well, with Moon Knight, they really like pumped up the character, pumped up the show. Like, hey, this is gonna be the next one of the next major characters we're gonna be focusing on introducing. And to your point, we got a season and nothing else. No, there's
That was it.
literally been no word
I mean, they
mentioned
got Oscar
at
Isaac to
all.
play the characters. I mean, they got like a name actor to
Yeah,
play the role, but then they haven't followed up with anything about the character. Like, where has
yeah,
he been? Where has Shang-Chi been? I mean, like we saw the end credit scene at the end of Shang-Chi, which kind of led to like, okay, there's gonna be more to this, and then we never got back to it again. I mean, and on top of that, the last cinematic movie that they put out, The Marvels, was an absolute bomb. It did terrible. I didn't even like the movie. All I liked was the ending. There were parts of it that I liked, but overall, I thought it was not a very good movie at all. I
yeah.
thought there were so many flaws in that movie.
I mean, even
And
and even if you look at the upcoming, we went through the upcoming roster as we know it to stand, and when you look at that roster, I mean, I think the one that excites me the most to want to see, and hopefully they can do it right, especially the timeline that they're doing it in, as far as like I think they're doing it what in the 60s or 70s, which is the Fantastic Four. I think it's gonna
yeah,
be based in that during that time, and they got a great cast. So, I mean, thus far we've seen the Fantastic Four done twice, and thus far it wasn't, such
it
a
wasn't
they
it
weren't
wasn't
great
done the best
films where
way.
we
Yeah,
talk about them constantly. We were wondering where are these particular characters at, where they've been. So
yeah.
hopefully they can right the ship with that
Well,
story, the Fantastic Four.
I think they can. I mean, I like Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, everyone they got to play the characters. I think they did a really good job. Obviously, they haven't announced who the villain's going to be and who's going to be playing the villain. That's something that they're probably going to announce, I would imagine, at San Diego Comic Con, if
Hmm.
they do attend Comic Con. But I mean, still, as much as I'm excited for Fantastic Four, to me, the tone setter for everything moving forward is going to be Deadpool versus Wolverine, or Deadpool and Wolverine. That's going to be the biggest tone setter for the MCU going forward. If that one's a hit and everyone, it does its job, then everyone can breathe easy. Like, yeah, this was fucking badass. I want to see some more MCU shit. I think the
Well, it's
Thunderbolts
got to
can
live
be
up to the
good, but
original, though. It's got to live up to the original because not too many people were happy with Deadpool 2. They thought it was
Deadpool 2 was not as good as Deadpool 1.
exactly. So I think when people start making their comparisons, they're going to go right back to, they're going to say, was it better than the first? No one really cares about the second. I think so.
Yeah.
Hopefully, them bringing Hugh back to play Wolverine pays off. I think it will pay off. But
Yeah, I think so.
how they end the film, I think will be the tone setter, I believe, for the next year or two of how they tell the stories and how they tie things together. Because you don't want to just bring Hugh in for like a cameo film and then be done with him. I think
Yeah.
we might see these two show up again in other projects
Oh,
together,
definitely, definitely.
and
I think
then when we see that reboot happen, then we'll start seeing where Hugh steps back. Okay, no, I'm now no longer Wolverine.
yeah.
They have a new Wolverine now, and it's so and so, right?
Well, and plus you figure
We're less than a minute. We're less
less
than
than
a
a
minute,
minute, but you
everybody.
figure with Avengers 5 coming out and then Avengers Secret Wars, I think when Secret Wars comes out, that's when we're going to see Deadpool, Wolverine, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, probably the 90s X-Men, all those guys,
Yeah.
everyone come back for Secret Wars because, they're going to be taken to Battle World where they're going to be, pitted up against all their villains. And then the Beyonder, is it the Beyonder? No, yeah. And he's the one who's overseeing everything because he's interested in human beings and how they fight, and so that should be pretty cool. But we'll see how that kind of plays out.
It's
Let
up.
me refresh. It's up. Okay, here we go, guys. We're going to be watching episode 4 of X-Men 97. If you want to follow us on Twitch or continue watching on X. The X stream and the Twitch stream will not stop. It'll go continuously all the way through the episode and into the post show as well. If you're watching on YouTube, I put the link to Twitch in the chat. Click on that link. Follow me on Twitch, and we're going to be watching X-Men 97 episode 4. So guys, I'm going to end the stream on YouTube right now. Like I said, follow us on Twitch or follow us on X, and you can watch the episode with us in real time. So until next time, guys, I will see you guys